All right, here is December 4th. It's a Monday. This lesson is mainly for afternoon play and just to sort of show what you need to be looking for if you end up playing the afternoon. Afternoons can be really easy. And be honest with you, you don't really even have to play the entire afternoon. That 12:30 is the most critical area. So as long as you can maybe get a play at 12 or 12:30, you can call it a day and just move on. If not, then sometimes you can get stuck in chop, and I'll show you the reason why. But these are the plays that you always want to be looking for because again, before you enter in any trade, you always want to be telling yourself a narrative of what is the story, like what is happening and what could potentially happen. Um, Thinking like, okay, if you were in this position, what would you end up doing? So, like, say for instance, right now you have to look and see that we gapped way down in the morning and went all the way past -1 ATR to the first extension, and then by 10:30 we ended up recovering, and then they retraced all the way back up by 12 o'clock. So that should tell you that we're pretty, I want to say, bullish. It's just that the Bears have recovered, and the likelihood is they're gonna defend it. Really, it comes down to right here, the fact that this actually closed back above the see, this was a fail it failed, and then it actually recovered and was solid above the -1 ATR. This is the most critical pivot because this is your full ATR move. Um, this right here is just basically bonus when you can get to it an extra extension. So with that said, you shouldn't necessarily be long bias or short bias because look, if you look, this was major support, and we gap below it, and so now this should be major resistance. So you can see that not just one but twice it had a hard time. So right at 12, you got to ask yourself a question: are you above a pivot? Not just, I mean, here we're not even close to being above a pivot, let alone we're not even above the morning's high. And if you drew that line, look right here, look how these candles closed right here. So that's why that line is super important, and that's why it is holding below that. So with that said, this is, so you should be automatically, a lot of times the move happens 5 minutes before the next TPO. So what they ended up doing was pushing it up, and then immediately right at 12, then they started dropping it. I actually got in. I got in late because I had stuff to do this all morning, so I ended up getting in right here, knowing my risk would probably be right here about 10-15 points, and that was worth it because there was a lot more points to the downside right here. But you could see that we never really made it to the back to the pivot by the end of that 12 o'clock candle. And so we ended up futzing around here. And then eventually, this was 30 minutes that it just sort of was like sitting here. And then they ended up right at the next TPO, they dropped it that first 5 minutes. So this is what you want to be looking for anytime you're near a pivot and you're dropping fast, that first 5 minutes below. Um, a lot of scenarios could happen. You could end up continuing to go and speed. A lot of times it starts triggering a lot of stops, and it could go all the way down here, but likelihood it's gonna hold. I actually went short from here, took profit here. I waited and then got back in short right here, and then because I was willing to risk 5 points for 50 points. So then what ended up happening was they actually came back and they stopped everybody out. And then now when you have this basically look below, or fail breakdown and fail. Um, where failed breakdown is where you have a solid line, solid bar, and then another solid bar back above. Um, there's a big difference between that and you see how you have this where it came up, and then within that 5 minutes it came all the way back, and it would never close. So that right there is super bearish at the last like 10 minutes of the day. So they yanked this back down, but they got to their target. They got really close from here to here. This right here, this was about an 80-point move from here to here, and that only took about 40 minutes, 45 minutes. So the reason why it's important to look at this and have patience is you see that we futzed around for about 30 minutes to an hour right here. And if you ever see anything like this, they're really defending this. And it's the same thing if it's the other side. And you can almost bet that they're going to, I would say, it's all about probability. So you're looking at it's probably 8 times out of 10 that they're going to defend this, and it will not go back down. And so the market wants to move and go somewhere. So where's your best risk reward? Your best risk reward is near a pivot, right? So if you would have got in anywhere up here while this was like just sort of futzing around, you literally had to risk 10 to 15 points below here in order to make sure that you just didn't get messed around. So this is what a Renko chart looks like, and that's why sometimes it's helpful. As in you see right here, this was 12 o'clock. That's what this vertical line is. And that line is that dotted line, and they dropped it. Came all the way down here. They couldn't make it all the way to the pivot. And then eventually, right here, you see how that sort of consolidation pattern, and then they ended up dropping it below. So again, this is anytime you see even on a Renko where it came down, it retest. This is where you get in for the short, and then it goes down. It should continue to go down right here. The mere fact that it came back above, you could have immediately gone long and you would have grabbed yourself probably about 15 points right here. Or you just wait for the bigger picture. And see, this is what happens with patience. Patience in this game is the hardest thing. Because if you waited for that hour, it came all the way back down, it tapped it, never broke it, and then immediately just shot up. And this right here, this was at 2:15. So you don't know when it's going to happen. So it was that last hour. You see, the last hour is also an important time where there's a lot of things. It's just like the first hour sometimes. So that last hour, you see how they dropped it down, they retested, and then came back up, all within this hour. So that is why you just have to have patience, and if you get chopped around, then wait for another TPO. But the rule is you got to be bullish until proven otherwise. Right here, you have to be bearish until proven otherwise. Well, you were proven wrong, so you get stopped out, and then now you wait for the next best risk reward. So you knew that you want to go long, but you want to get as close as you can to this pivot because that allows you possibly to use more contracts. So right here, if I got in right here, right at this spot, and I say I risked, and I had 5 contracts, and I was only willing to risk maybe 5 points. That's 25 points, well, if you would have held from there to there, that'd be 5 times 80. That would have been 400 points. And 400 points, say times $20, that's $8,000 just in this move right here with 5 contracts, and not risking that much. But if you're right here and you're getting in long, I mean, you're having to risk 10, 15 points. So if you had 5 contracts, you're risking 50 points in order to possibly see if this move's going to happen. Because you never know. They could have just consolidated this until the rest of the afternoon. But this right here, now you can see that they possibly tomorrow, I mean, these are lower highs. So came down here, came down here. This was Friday. They dropped it down. And then now, possibly on Tuesday, they could come back up here and they're going to consolidate right here and then possibly make a decision. Um, this is important, but it really is important when it comes to the longer time frame. See these 4-hour candles. So tomorrow they actually could gap it up to possibly right in this area, and then by the end of the first 4-hour period, which would be by 12:30 Central Time, they could end up bringing it back down below here. And if they do, then you are back. You're still below this major support. Um, so when I say it's major support, it. I mean, it's not that actual major, because I mean over here, there's no the only time it was showing is because it was basically a multi-day support system right here. So anyways, I'm rambling on, but the point of the story is, um, be be really careful and look at these stories, because this is an extremely easy play, and you want to know where your zones are. When I say your zones, as in, you know that from here to here, and here's VWAP, and if it stays above here, then this is where you'll be the sandbox you're playing with in the rest of the afternoon. You have to know where you're gonna play. Now, granted, look at this. If this would have actually kept on going down and they broke right here, that last hour, absolutely they could end up bringing it all the way back down really quickly down to the lows. So, but that's the reason why this was so violent and this was so quick, is because everybody that probably was thinking it was going short, it ended up reversing on them. It bounced right off the pivot to the T, and look, pivot to pivot. So, anyways, that is the lesson. Afternoon plays are great, but just like morning plays, you can get chopped up if you're not patient. You can see in the morning, this was the first 30 minutes, I mean, it looks like there was about 30-40 point range, but you see how it was sort of choppy, but the bigger move happened right at 9. Usually the bigger move happens at 9 or 9:30 when there's some kind of news. And then if you missed all this, you could have waited right at 10:30, and then you had an hour and a half until the next TPO, or until the next 4-hour TPO afternoon, and it retraced all of it back. So, all right, good luck, and study this setup right here.